So the National Cabinet, state, territory and federal leaders met today and made more decisions, some of which I've just mentioned to you in the introduction. This pandemic, the pandemic cabinet really, the war cabinet if you like, is going to meet now twice a week on Tuesdays and Fridays. Scott Morrison says we shouldn't be alarmed by new infections, saying they're expected, but he reckons we should wind back unnecessary travel domestically. Schools should remain open, older Australians should be extra careful, but all of us should follow the rules.
But if younger people in particular, and those more generally in the community, follows these rules, it won't be your life you're saving because you'll be fine, you'll be healthy. But by you doing the right thing, you'll be saving the life of someone who is more vulnerable. So do it for your fellow Australians.
The Prime Minister also demanded that all those required to self-isolate do so properly. The Chief Medical Officer emphasised this point too.
So this issue of quarantining when you come home is serious. This is not an advisory. This is your civic duty to your fellow Australians to stay home for that entire 14 days if you've come back to Australia. No exceptions.
Now, the Prime Minister also announced almost $500 million extra for aged care homes and new bans on travel to remote Indigenous communities. Parliament will sit for just one day next week. A skeleton roster of MPs and staff on Monday will pass laws for the economic response to this pandemic. The PM will meet with the opposition leader on Sunday to plan all of this. Now, just to give you a bit of an insight into how this disease can make you feel, and that you don't have to be elderly to be hit hard, have a look at this message from a patient in Britain.
If anyone still smokes, put the cigarettes down, because I'm telling you now, you need your lungs. And please, none of you take any chances. I mean it, because if it gets really bad, then you're going to end up here.
She's fighting through, we're told, but as you can see, it's not always easy. Although there have been no young fatalities from this virus, you've got to remember that, none. Also, it's worth sharing this with you. An immunologist who spoke a lot of sense on the ABC last night. I think it's very much worth listening to every word.
The reason Hong Kong and Singapore are okay, even though they are also very ahead of us in terms of time, is that they adopted personal social isolation and interpersonal distancing very early in the epidemic. They didn't wait for a huge number of cases. This is because these two countries have the experience of SARS, and the moment they heard about a new novel coronavirus in Wuhan, within a couple of days you saw everyone in Hong Kong wearing a mask. Now, the mask is just a symbol that the people understand how to solve this medical problem. They know what the remedy is, and that is to socially isolate themselves from each other, not touch each other, and not touch things that they don't need to touch.
There you go. That's 40 seconds of insight that should be on high rotation in this country and around the world, I reckon. They could do with it now in the US, where measures are ramping up dramatically as infections and deaths escalate. Californians have now gone into lockdown. Other states and various cities are doing the same. The US and Canada have closed their long border to all but the most essential crossings, and Donald Trump has mobilised the military for critical medical supplies, and he's calling in Navy hospital ships to help out. And in the middle of all this, the most sickening political scandal, a Republican Senator, Richard Burr, who chairs the Intelligence Committee, got a briefing on the likely impact of the coronavirus last month. Then he didn't warn the public about the turmoil ahead, but he did sell down more than $1.7 million worth of shares. Another Republican senator is accused of the same, and I can't say it better than Fox News' Tucker Carlson.
He dumped his shares in hotel stocks so he wouldn't lose money, and then he stayed silent. Now, maybe there's an honest explanation for what he did. If there is, he should share it with the rest of us immediately. Otherwise, he must resign from the Senate and face prosecution for insider trading. There is no greater moral crime than betraying your country in a time of crisis. And that appears to be what happened.
Yeah, well said, Tucker Carlson. What a disgrace. It's another example of how this microscopic virus It's going to test all of us, our medical system, our governance, our political system, our media and our social cohesion. Not everyone is passing so far. I'll look at panic buying, hoarding and profiteering tonight. But in the meantime, at least Gumtree has banned people advertising toilet paper and hand sanitizer and other essentials online. That's a start. Shops pushing up prices, that's wrong too. That's exploiting fellow Australians. Petrol stations not getting their prices down to the $1 or 20 or so they should be a litre at the moment. That's gouging your compatriots. I mentioned our cafes in this building the other day. They closed today, 2 of them. Small businesses, the livelihoods of those families now hanging in the balance. Their staff, wonderful, friendly people, now unemployed. I said goodbye to them today. One of the young girls said, pray for us that we get another job. This is happening all around the country right now. Estimates say up to 100,000 people could be out of work in just these first few weeks. So whether you're a politician or a journalist, a worker or a business owner, whether you're rich or poor, old or young, you can be one of the Aussies here who's trying to help out. Help your family first, sure, but help others as well. Or you can get involved in panicking and point scoring. And worst of all, you can be one of the pricks trying to cash in and exploit others. On this show, we're about the first lot, the majority, the heart and soul of this nation. And with your help, we'll call the others out, whether they're scumbag US senators or greedy bullies at your local shops.